Greetings to all of you viewing this presentation on religious instruction, and thank you for taking time to find out more about this phase of the children's instruction. Firstly, I would like to say that we know that religious instruction is new to some of the teachers in the District Apostle area, because these syllabi were not taught in the area before. We are also aware that many of the teachers teaching religious instruction do not come from a teaching background, but love to serve the Lord by teaching the children. For these reasons, this presentation does not delve into intense detail on any aspect of the religious instruction, but is rather aimed at providing a brief overview of this phase in the children's instruction, and more importantly, of practically guiding the teacher in how to teach these lessons. For the more experienced teachers who are viewing this presentation, please revisit the basic elements of teaching the lessons and make notes on how you can creatively enhance your presentation of the content. Let us now start by giving some historical background to religious instruction and then place this phase of the children's tuition into perspective. When Sunday school was first taught in the district church, this took the form of Bible stories. Later, when the children progressed into the confirmation class, they were, much like today, schooled in the fundamentals of the new apostolic faith, such as the Creed. This all changed in 1978 when the first religious instruction classes were introduced. For those who were present at the time, they will remember the set of 4 red hardcover manuals that were used for instruction. These classes originally took place on a Monday or Tuesday evening, and were in addition to Sunday school and confirmation classes on a Sunday. Later, the religious instruction classes were combined with the teaching of Sunday school on a Sunday, and the structure would be 4 years of Sunday school, 4 years of religious instruction, and 2 years of confirmation. Over time, the content of the lessons and the structure of Sunday school have changed and certainly continue to change, as an international work group is currently busy revising the content of religious instruction lessons. The current structure we have is as follows: Sunday school, Come Lord Jesus, Volume 1 and 4, Religious Instruction, God's Ways, Volume 1 and 2, Confirmation 1, Local Manual, Confirmation 2, I also want to. Our religious instruction syllabus runs for a period of 2 years with the title God's Ways. Religious Instruction 1 is for those who are 11 years in the calendar year, and the lessons cover the period of the Old Testament. Religious Instruction 2 is for those who turn 12 in the calendar year, and the lessons cover the activities of Jesus Christ in the New Testament. From the structure of Sunday school, we can see that religious instruction builds upon the Sunday school lessons of the first 4 years. It imparts knowledge about biblical history and does so in an age-appropriate way. It also reinforces the children's awareness that they are part of God's work of redemption, thereby promoting a willingness to help in the completion of the work of God. In religious instruction, they will learn from the accounts of human experiences with God. The history of salvation of both Old and New time periods is discussed in reference to the life of faith of the children.
In the beginning, God created.
Contents of faith are deepened, knowledge is promoted, and the interconnections with God's plan of salvation are explained. In this manner, enduring values are imparted. Furthermore, religious instruction should enable pupils to freely profess their faith, and in this way, it forms a strong link with confirmation. Our Chief Apostle sums it up so well in part of his foreword to the children in their workbook. He writes, "The title of the instruction material, God's Ways, is no coincidence, because you are to be made familiar with the ways that God takes on people. In the process, you will discover that God really walks with you on your way of life and faith. Participating in the religious instruction classes will help you understand many things about the Bible and salvation history that you may have not known before. Your knowledge and understanding will increase, but your assurance and confidence in your faith is to be strengthened as well so that it can prove itself when difficult situations arise. Now that we have some background on religious instruction and know what the objectives of teaching these lessons are, let us become more practical and ask the question, what do I need to be able to teach religious instruction? Here is a list. A teacher's manual, a teacher's workbook with the solutions to the exercises in the children's workbook, a religious instruction schedule which indicate which lessons are to be taught on which day, a board, a flip chart or a large writing pad, a Bible, a question and answers version of the catechism, a teaching space where the children are able to write. Importantly, you also need to ensure that the children in your class all have a workbook. Once you have all of this available, teaching the lessons become easy as they have been designed in a very teacher-friendly way without needing further costly materials. Let us now take some time to focus on the structure of the lessons as they appear in the teacher's manual. On the opening page of the lesson, you will find the lesson title with an illustration. The objective and contents of the lesson are also indicated on this page. This, at a glance, provides the teacher with the information on what the lesson is all about and why it is being taught. It can be very helpful for the teacher to know the objective and the content of the lesson well in advance of it being taught. Some lessons have introductory remarks. Not all lessons have this, but where it is necessary for the teacher to have some background knowledge of the topic to be taught, this is presented in introductory remarks. While this information is not directly taught in the lesson, it is important for the teacher to better understand the context of the content. The lesson properly starts under the heading Lesson Plan, and in the left column, the teacher will see these titles in bold: Lead In, Implementation, and finally further down, Conclusion. In the lead-in, the topic that will be dealt with is introduced. So we could really say that the lead-in is an introduction to the lesson. Then follows the implementation phase where new subject matter is elaborated on and combined with what the children already know. This is the actual teaching of the content of the lesson. Lastly, in the conclusion, the material dealt with in the lesson is rounded off. This allows for an opportunity to emphasize the objective of the lesson. By following the lesson plan according to these three headings, the lesson that is taught will have a logical sequence that is easy to follow. Teachers would have noticed that there are also some other notes in the margin besides just lead in, implementation, and conclusion. This is also very important. Normally, when teachers prepare, they make notes to ensure that they carry the thread of the lesson through in an unbroken and understandable sequence. In this manual, this has been done for you in the form of procedural marginal notes. If you follow the procedural marginal notes, it allows you with the least amount of effort to preserve a golden thread throughout the lesson and at the same time to vary the presentation of the content. Let us now spend some time going through the marginal notes and give some explanation on what they mean. Discussion. This allows time for the children to discuss a certain aspect of the lesson. When they are given a chance to contribute, it enables them to make a connection with the situation in their own life. The teacher is also able to find out what they know about the given topic and then expand that knowledge. The teacher leads the discussion and provides prompts, for example, in the form of questions or through an exercise in the workbook. Prompt. The teacher's prompt is to get the children to express themselves in a discussion through a statement, by asking a question or making a request. The teacher guides the discussion in a constructive direction. The prompts that are indicated in the text are not prescribed. The teacher can reword them while still conveying the essence of what is being asked.
So on day one, what happened?
It is important that questions are asked in such a manner that neither yes or no answers are meaningful. In all cases, the children must be given enough time to think before answering. At some other stage, more detailed information will be provided on the question and answer technique that teachers should use. Answers. The responses of the children do not have to be identical to what is written in the lesson plan. Teachers do not know what their children's answers may be. The answers may correspond to the content of the given answers. In this case, the teacher should accept these remarks. They may expand on the topic. If the teacher is able to incorporate this into the lesson, it should be done. If the comment is correct, but detracts too much from the objective of the lesson, the teacher confirms that the statement is correct, but explains that the thought cannot be dealt with further during this lesson. They may digress from the topic. Here, the teacher lovingly points out that remark does not fit in with the topic being discussed. If the children miss addressing a point, which would be important for the further development of the lesson, the teacher ought to provide additional prompts or personally express the point. Result. This is where the teacher summarizes the contents of the discussion the children have had. As an alternative, this can also be a statement which the teacher should elaborate on through suitable discussion. If the teacher would like to do this, it should be planned when preparing the lesson. Teacher's presentation. While the lessons are designed to make the maximum use of the children's participation through their personal contributions, some of the subject material can be better communicated through a presentation by the teacher. The teacher's presentation must be lively, interesting, and quite short as not to weaken the children's attentiveness. It is also possible to ask short questions, as these will help to maintain the children's interest and give the teacher an indication that everything has been understood. Any questions that the children want to ask should be appropriately dealt with by the teacher. Board. As was mentioned in the list of what a teacher needs to teach religious instruction, a board, flip chart, or a large writing pad is essential. Important points that result from discussion can immediately be captured for all to see. It is important that this teaching aid is not used as a scribbling pad. What is written on the board should be well structured so that it can be transferred into the student's workbook. Suggestions regarding what can be written on the board are found in the teacher's manual. At a later stage, more detailed hints for the use of the board will be dealt with. Just remember, we are still busy discussing the marginal notes that you will come across under the lesson plan in the left-hand column of the teacher's manual. These notes help you to teach the lesson according to an understandable procedure. Let us now continue and conclude with the workbook and the Bible. For the workbook, there are two possible marginal notes that can appear: Workbook Exercise and Workbook Text. We will deal with each one individually. Workbook Exercises. At given points in the lesson, the teacher asks the children to do specific exercises that are found in their workbooks. To bring some variety into the completion of these exercises, the teacher can ask them to work individually, in pairs, or in groups. The teacher then assists with any difficulties they may come across. The exercises themselves are also varied so that the lesson remains interesting in respect of the task the children are asked to do. Sometimes they may be asked to put sections of the text into proper order, fill in missing text, or match pictures and captions. At other times, they are expected to draw, solve simple arithmetic problems, or solve puzzles. Workbook text. In the workbooks, texts about the topics being dealt with can be found again and again. They are written in a manner the children can understand. In volumes 1 and 2, the texts mainly recount biblical history. The marginal notes signal that, at this point, such text is to be used in the lesson. Some texts are not taken up during the lesson, but serve as an additional source of information for the children. Bible. Passages from the Bible are recorded in the lesson, and the children can be asked to look for such verses in the Bible. The teacher assists if necessary. The children are then asked to read them aloud. Again, the option can be exercised to let two children read together. Alternatively, the teacher can read with the child. In summary then, the sequence of the lesson plan is laid down by a series of marginal notes that, if followed, make for a well-constructed lesson that provides variety in its presentation. If teachers follow the lesson plan diligently, they will always provide the children with a fundamentally sound lesson. Experienced teachers have the flexibility to replace all or part of the marginal notes with new and creative ways of bringing the objective across. Care should, however, be taken that lessons do not become so elaborate that the message is lost. To conclude, let us briefly consider the matter of preparation. Again, we don't want to go into a detailed presentation on preparation, but rather briefly touch on the topic. As it is unthinkable for a minister to conduct a divine service without preparing, it is hard to believe that the teacher would think of teaching a lesson without preparation. While preparation may at first become time-consuming and will, with experience, become a lot easier, especially if a certain routine is followed. Whenever dealing with Sunday school material in preparation for a lesson, it is good to start with a prayer. This does not have to be an elaborate prayer, rather a simple request that the Lord grants divine inspiration and blessing for what is planned. Then, 1 week in advance, it is best to consult the lesson schedule and know the title of the lesson to be taught, as well as the objective and summary of the contents on the front page of the lesson. So, when on a Saturday evening you are preparing for the following day's lesson, it is a good hint to conclude your preparation with a quick look at the lesson to be taught in a week's time. It is also useful to set aside a specific time on a Saturday for a lesson preparation. Schedule this time to suit your lifestyle and work hard at making it part of your routine so that others are also aware that this is the time you are using for lesson preparation. When preparing, firstly read the introductory remarks if available. This will give you a good understanding of the background to the lesson content. Thereafter, concentrate on the lesson plan and the sequence of the lesson as discussed in this presentation. If after your preparation you are able to close your eyes and visualize the lesson as it should happen the next day, you are well prepared to teach. With this, we want to conclude this presentation on religious instruction. Remember that all the information presented here can be found in the opening pages of the religious instruction manuals under Pedagogical Notes and Procedural Marginal Notes. Should you have some time at your disposal, do read through them again. For now, till we meet again, happy teaching.